I know. Dragon and can't do anything right. Hi, I'm recording. Glasses on, glasses off, glasses on, glasses off. Okay, we're gonna have to film this way because I don't look in the camera the other way. So, okay, we can do this. I started recording already. I'm Dragon, and I was just recently diagnosed with autism. I have known for a few years now that I was autistic. I did a bunch of research because things just were not clicking correctly, and I wanted to make sure with the psychologist that my thought process was correct, and it was correct. So I've been wanting for a while to make some YouTube videos and other videos helping others like me on the neurodivergent scale understand different aspects of life. But I'm going to preface these videos by saying I am not a psychologist. These videos will mostly be my experience and my research that I have been doing for quite a while, as well as experience from my autistic friends and other people like me, and the research that I have been doing. So without further ado, let's go. So, what is autism? The Webster Dictionary describes autism as a neurological and development disorder that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. So basically, this means that our brains kind of work a little bit different than everybody else's. It's sometimes very hard to understand anything. I personally tell people that I am an alien. Just gonna put that out there. The world is not really made for us, but that doesn't mean that we can't live in the world. As an autistic person, and I'm sure a few of you who are autistic have heard these same things, as well as maybe if you're not autistic and not neurodivergent, you have probably also heard or said a few of these sentences. The first one that we're going to talk about is,
"You don't look autistic."
By saying things like, "But you don't look autistic," you're basically telling me that because this is the way that I look and this is the way that I dress, I don't look how you are stereotypically stating autism is supposed to look. Usually with my responses to that, I'll usually stare at somebody and be like, what am I supposed to look like? A potato? Autism is what is called a spectrum. A spectrum is something used to classify something or suggest that it can be classified in terms of its position on a scale between two extremes and opposite planes. Now, there used to be a factor that people would call it high functioning versus low functioning, but people with autism do not like those terms at all. Autistic people don't like those terms. Because by saying something like, oh, she's high functioning, you get things like disbelief. Oh, you don't look autistic. You must be high functioning. You don't need any support at all. Believe me, I need support. Or if you have things like, oh, they're low functioning, they're not good enough. That's never the case. No one ever is not good enough. Don't be telling people they're not good enough. Functioning labels may have people facing disbelief or inadequate support for their challenges. They are labeled with those functioning labels pretty much for the rest of their lives. So even if they get better in some way, get more support, and are able to do the things that they want, the label will forever stick with them. And that's not something that we like. Right now, instead of using a line of high functioning to low functioning, we tend to use things like the autism color wheel, which is basically a gigantic wheel that you can color yourself to explain the different issues and things that you need specific support on. So that could be sensory processing, that could be emotional regulation, that could be social skills, that could be speech, that could be stimming, that could be nonverbal communication, it could be depression, it could be a need for routine, it could be meltdowns, it could be anxiety, it could be executive functions, or major skills on coordination. And I don't know if I said sensory already, but it could be sensory as well. So basically, when you see that color wheel, you can color it in yourself and find the things that you specifically need help with. And that gives you your support levels. With psychology now, I know they do like levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. I personally don't like the levels for the same reason of it is basically the high functioning versus low functioning. But if you would like in another video, drop a comment and I can explain those levels, I guess. But yeah, I will post right now the color wheel for you to see.
She's just pretending to fit in with her other freaks who call themselves autistic.
Last but not least is this sentence. Autism is just a trend. And I do understand that now with the use of the internet and people like me and others speaking out clearly about their experiences, it could seem like autism is now a trend. But more and more people are realizing that they are not broken. That they are not an alien living in a world of humans. They are realizing that there is possibly something that is actually different in their brains, and they're realizing that they are in a world not made for themselves. I personally believe in self-diagnosis. I was self-diagnosed for years, though my psychologist did say I showed signs, but I had to go to another psychologist to get diagnosed for that. The latest psychologist that I was with told me that if you are constantly thinking you're autistic and doing research about autism and saying, hey, that kind of sounds like me often, and then saying you're autistic, a normal person isn't going to say they're autistic. I have never met a neurotypical just be like, I'm autistic. No, you're not. No one says that. No neurotypical says that. Another reason why more and more people are finding out they're autistic or getting diagnosed later in life, girls were not diagnosed. When I was younger, I was just quiet, cute. Girls my age were supposed to be quiet and cute. Girls are to be seen, not heard. With women, they didn't start getting fully diagnosed if they were more quiet and more not talkative and not interruptive until like the early 2000s. By the time it was the early 2000s, I was already in 5th grade. So women in their 20s and 30s are being diagnosed because we didn't have that when I was younger. When my mother was younger, she was diagnosed with something called childhood schizophrenia. If you look up childhood schizophrenia, you will find out that before, when they diagnosed childhood schizophrenia, they discovered that childhood schizophrenia was actually autism. So they put anyone that had childhood schizophrenia as autistic later on. Then, in World War II, they discovered Asperger's. Ask any autistic person, we don't like the term Asperger's. Why? Because it was created by a Nazi. Asperger took a bunch of children that were autistic, and the ones that were deemed able to work were given his name of servitude. Those that were deemed not able to work were autistic. We don't like that term. We're all autistic. because I don't want to work for a Nazi, and I don't think anybody else wants to work for a Nazi. So, autism has been around. Autism has always been around. In the early times, they used to call their children that were clearly autistic changelings. They thought they took the babies, fairies took the babies and replaced them with this little goblin creature of doom. Autism has always been around. It's just changed names. From a changeling to demented to put them in an asylum to childhood schizophrenia to Asperger's to autism. It's not a trend. It's always been around. Another reason why many people in their 30s are now getting diagnosed is the price. I found Prosper Health, in which took my insurance, and it only cost me like $70 to get diagnosed. But I've been searching for the last like 3 years to find a psychologist, and the price is usually $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 with insurance. And if you don't have insurance, that goes up to $9,000 to $10,000. So really, if you are anywhere from 18 to 20, unless you're born rich, then there's probably a high chance that you are not going to be able to afford to be diagnosed until your 20s or 30s. That's sadly just the case. So once more, it's not a trend with 20s to 30s getting diagnosed. It's the factor that a lot of us didn't have the option, including the older generation. You didn't exist back then. It did exist. It just had a different name. And a lot of us didn't have the money to do it. So now that we have the money to find out why we are an alien in a world of humans, we're able to get diagnosed. That is all I have for today. Drop a comment in my video, and maybe I will make another video with answers to any questions that you have. So once again, I'm Dragon, and I hope this was helpful.